I declare the council meeting open at 6 p.m. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting today is being held on Wajag Noongar Budja, and I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I thank all past and present members of the community that have supported the city to better understand and value Noongar culture within the city of Wanneroo. I invite you to bow your head in prayer. Lord, we thank you for blessing our city, our community and our council. Guide us all in our decision-making to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity, wisdom and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all, and guide all of the city's people and many families to a prosperous future that all may share. We ask this in your name. Amen. Please note that the audio-visual proceedings of tonight's meeting will be live broadcast online with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. The broadcast of the proceedings of the meeting can be accessed live and on demand through the City of Wanneroo YouTube channel. Item 1, attendances. Tonight we have 2 requests for electronic attendance. In order of receipt, they are Councillor Huntley and Councillor Seif. I will ask my fellow council members to vote on accepting these councillors into the meeting electronically. And the adopted policy states 6.3, the maximum of number of e-attendance is a maximum number of 3 members are permitted to attend a relevant meeting electronically, and exceptional circumstances where there is a request to attend a meeting electronically contains circumstances that are not detailed in this policy. The request will be, in the case of the request of being to attend to a relevant meeting or other meeting, be referred to the Mayor in the first instance. The Mayor may refer any request to attend a relevant meeting to the Council for consideration and may refer their own request to the Deputy Mayor, acting under Section 5.34 of the Act. I will now ask you to cast your vote for each request individually, and I will open the vote for Councillor Huntley to attend the meeting. Do we have 11 in the room? And that was passed unanimously by the councillors in the room. Let the record show that Councillor Huntley has been authorised by Council to attend this special council meeting by electronic means in accordance with the details as signed in the request documentation submitted on the request form dated the 21st of May 2024. Councillor Huntley, will you now make your declaration prior to participating in the confidential part of this meeting? Councillor Huntley, can you read your declaration, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In accordance with Section 14CA5, I, Jackie Huntley, declare that I can maintain confidentiality whilst attending the closed part of this council meeting electronically.
Thank you. We now open the vote for Councillor Seif. Councillor Seif, if you can vote as to whether Councillor Seif is able to attend electronically or not. We're missing one. We should have 11. Oh, we've got 11 councillors within the room who've accepted that attendance. So let the record show that Councillor Seif has been authorised by Council to attend this council meeting by electronic means in accordance with the details as signed in the request documentation submitted on the request form dated the 18th of June 2024. Councillor Seif, will you now make your declaration prior to participating in the confidential part of this meeting?
Yes, I can do that. In accordance with Section 14CA in brackets 5, I, Iman Seif, declare that I can maintain confidentiality whilst attending this council meeting electronically. There we go.
Councillor Seif, oh, you've turned your, that's good. Thank you. Item 2, apologies and leave of absence. Councillor Wright is on a leave of absence and Councillor Berry is an apology. We have no new requests for a leave of absence. Item 3, public question time. The following general rules apply to public question and statement time. Public questions and statements should only relate to the business of the local government and should not be a personal statement or opinion. Only questions relating to matters affecting the local government will be considered at the council meeting, and only questions that relate to the purpose of the meeting will be considered at a special council meeting. Questions may be taken on notice and responded to after the meeting. Questions may not be directed at specific council members or a city employee. Questions are not to be framed in such a way as to reflect adversely on a particular council member or city employee. First priority will be given to persons who are asking questions relating to items on the current council meeting agenda, and second priority will be given to public statements. Only public statements regarding items on the council agenda under consideration will be heard. Each person seeking to ask questions or make a statement may address the council for a maximum of 3 minutes each. And we have some statements here. First of all, we have a statement from Mrs R. Casey from Merriwa. It's about PQ01 0624, the motion to revoke Council Resolution ASO 5424. Is Council aware of any previous motion to revoke a decision being made in relation to the removal of trees? The response by our Director of Assets states, Administration has undertaken a search of the decisions made at council meetings and identified one instance when Council considered a rescission motion to revoke a council decision relating to the removal of street trees, item MN020814, Councillor Treby, removal of fig trees in Russell Road, Madeley. Rescission motion refers. The agenda papers and the minutes of the council meeting when this item was considered are available by following these links: Agenda of Ordinary Council Meeting 19th of August 2014 in brackets infocouncil.biz close bracket, and the minutes of Ordinary Council Meeting 19th of August 2014 open bracket infocouncil.biz close bracket. We have a question from Ms N Houlihan from Alexander Heights, PQ020624 about MN010624, the motion to revoke Council Resolution ASO 50424. Good evening again, councillors, and thank you for the time and attention you've given discussing this matter. I would like to extend particular thanks to the councillors who have gone out of their way to support me with my request. It is unfortunate that I'm not able to attend this evening's meeting, but I trust that the below points will be read out and given due consideration in the lead up to your decision. Despite the majority of councillors voting to have one of the Angofera costata trees removed from my property, I understand that this decision has now been revoked and requires further consideration. I do not understand how this change has occurred, but given that it has, I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the arguments made by residents in my street who are affected by the presence of these trees. You are all aware of the points raised in my recent letter to Council, which addressed all but one of the items in the City of Wanneroo's street tree policy. The petition which followed, signed by residents who are directly impacted by the trees, reiterated these points. Prior to this, there were several other communications to the City of Wanneroo written over a number of years to request the removal of the trees. Tonight, I would like to address the following points in the hope that they will provide clarity and understanding around the reasons why at least one tree, Tree 1, should be removed. 1. In relation to the point made by Councillor Huntley during the Ordinary Council meeting on the 23rd of April 2024 regarding the management of leaf litter, the issue of tree litter and the leaf litter hitting the ground is not in itself the biggest problem. I have a number of other native trees in the front yard of my property from which the leaf litter falls and forms a welcome ground cover. The problem is the amount of leaf litter generated by these enormous trees. For my family, it is a relentless, ongoing effort and expense to keep up with the litter falling into guttering at my residence. For other residents of the street, the problem relates largely to the amount of flower pollen which is blown around the neighbourhood, causing the clogging of roof spaces, pool and pond filters, and worst of all, causing allergic reactions to residents. 2. In relation to the point made by Councillor Bedworth regarding the appropriateness of the Angophora costata for the location, as argued by Councillor Bedworth, these trees pose a risk to the safety of residents because of their tendency to drop boughs and branches, and they are simply not appropriate to the location. Surely a different species of tree would be a better option as a way to enhance both the aesthetics of the street and the tree canopy, while having fewer negative impacts on residents. The Angophora costata is a species that not suited to a cul-de-sac location, where there are rooftops, gutters, swimming pools, cars parked within close proximity, and frequent pedestrian presence beneath, not to mention the allergies experienced by residents as a result of the pollen. It might be assumed that the safety issues associated with this species are the reason why it's no longer planted in suburban locations, as identified during the discussion at the Ordinary Council meeting on the 23rd of April 2024. 3. The problems relating to leaf litter and potential risk of boughs falling is exacerbated by the following factors. 1. The height of the trees, currently approximately 20 metres tall and still growing, plus the exposed location, which is frequently affected by strong winds. Together, these factors cause the tree litter to fall, not to the ground, but rather to be blown high into the air before landing on rooftops, in gutters, and make its way into roof spaces and into swimming pools. If the trees were not of such a height or in such an exposed location, the tree litter would largely fall to the ground and not cause the impacts that it does, in the same way that the existing smaller trees in my yard create minimal impact. In addition to the above-mentioned factors, the trees are located within 5 to 6 metres of my residence. Strong winds and lightning strikes put my house in immediate danger of falling boughs or, worse still, a falling tree. 4. Please consider the fact that affected residents cannot simply leave the area to avoid discomfort or to avoid the issues relating to the trees. These trees are in the immediate vicinity of our homes. Residents who pay rates to the City of Wanneroo are forced to endure the discomfort, effort and expense relating to these trees on a daily and yearly basis. Residents don't have a choice here. And 5, it must be remembered that these trees were offered to the City of Wanneroo Council for this, offered by the City of Wanneroo Council for this location and accepted in good faith, with the expectation that they would be a suitable option for the local environment. It is clear that they are not an appropriate choice. Unfortunately, it is the residents who must now manage the negative impacts of the trees, resulting in ongoing expense, effort, discomfort, and potential risk to the health and safety. The request by the residents of Cordelia Place, Alexander Heights, to have all 3 trees removed was initially accepted on a majority vote by the council. Having this decision amended to remove only 1 tree was surprising and disappointing, but on reflection acceptable, and I felt that it was a reasonable compromise. Now to have the decision to remove tree 1 completely revoked after it was passed by council with a clear majority vote seems grossly unfair and, frankly, a poor reflection on the council process. It seems to me that the process was not followed as it should have been. The revocation of the council resolution has caused me to lose respect and lose faith in the City of Wanneroo, as well as in the local government process. Clearly, the people who are suffering the greatest impact from these trees are the ones with the least amount of sway in the matter. I personally feel very frustrated and powerless at the thought of there being no end in sight to the situation in which I find myself, and at there being no way to solve the problems I and fellow residents face. The power lies with you, councillors, in relation to what happens to these trees. I ask that you consider the points raised by the residents who are directly impacted by the presence of the trees when making your decision, not the opinions of those with a different agenda, who live in a location far removed from the impacts of the Angophora costata. The issues of the residents in Cordelia Place are far more than just not wanting to pick up leaves. Our issues relate to the health and safety of local residents and their properties. Please be reminded that if the trees in question do cause damage to property or person in future, the repeated requests to remove the trees and the response by the City of Wanneroo are on record for all to know. If such an event were to happen, the handling of the entire situation by the City of Wanneroo would most certainly undergo examination in a legal proceeding. Perhaps this experience would be far more worthy of media attention than the planned removal of a single tree on my property. Thank you for your consideration of the request to remove tree 1 from my property in Cordelia Place, Alexander Heights. Regards, Narellan Houlihan. We also have a statement from Mr Faulkner at Quinns Rocks about PQ 030624, and it's about MN 020624, funding for the Quinns Rocks Youth in Emergency Service Cadets. My name is Stephen Faulkner from 39 Grey Gum Crescent at Quinns Rocks. I am the Chief Instructor of the Quinns Rocks Youth in Emergency Services Cadets. And, sorry? Okay, if you would like to read it. Go ahead, Steve.
Working? All good. Thanks for the introduction there, Linda. My name is Stephen Faulkner from 39 Grey Gum Crescent in Quinns Rock. I'm the Chief Instructor of the Quinns Rock Youth and Emergency Services Cadets, and I'm here tonight to present a statement on behalf of our amazing cadets and instructors, and I also want to thank Derek Young from Two Rocks, who's come to support me tonight as well. I sent an email off to Mayor Aiken and all councillors last night. Apologies for the delay getting that to you. I've had a dad sick in hospital at the moment, so I've been a little limited on my time. I'm here to express the urgent need for support and funding for the Quinns Rock Youth and Emergency Services Cadet Program. This initiative has been a part of our local community since its inception in 1997 as the Clarkson Emergency Services Cadet Corps. Originally based at Clarkson Community High School, over the years our program has evolved through the partnerships of key government departments, Cadets WA under the Department of Communities, DFIS and Department of Education. These partnerships have been instrumental in the ability to provide essential training and development and opportunities for our local youth over the years. Our journey has not been without challenges though. In 2016, an abrupt closure of our program at Clarkson Community High School caused us to have a swift relocation to Quinns Rock Primary School. This was based on regulatory hurdles that threatened the existence again in 2018 when we'll face potential closure due to compliance issues with Department of Education regulations. Thanks to the resilience of our team and support of the Quinns Baptist College, we persevered, transitioning to become the Quinns Rock SES Cadets and then later adapting into the DFIS new Youth and Emergency Services program in 2020. Despite these transitions, our program faces financial constraints. We are no longer eligible for state government funding under the Cadets WA model, or DFIS, due to the technicalities of the local government grant scheme. This has placed significant strain on our operational capacity and a reliance on the community support and fundraising efforts, to sustain our activities and provide essential training to our cadets. Currently, the Quinns Rock Youth and Emergency Services Cadets program serves approximately 70 cadets aged 11 to 18, spanning from Yanchep to Burns Beach and out to Carramar, even Les Murdy. We have 11 instructors, many of whom are first responders, and they invest their time to instil values of duty, loyalty and community service in our cadets. Through our program, we aim to educate local youth about emergency services agencies, provide diverse training opportunities and foster community resilience in times of crisis. Our activities include 40 training nights annually, multiple camps, leadership events and participation in community service initiatives and more. We operate on a modest budget, charging $200 per cadet annually, supplemented by fundraising efforts and community partnerships. With additional funding, we aim to enhance our program significantly. This includes enhancing instructor training in the youth mental health first aid area, certifications for our cadets in first aid, fire support and equipment upgrades, and expanding on camp activities, which is something that's been missing from our group from a number of years, like abseiling and things, because they cost a significant amount of money to book those. I firmly believe our program should be funded by state government. There's no question about that. It should be either through Cadets WA or through DFIS itself. Unfortunately, I don't know if I will be or our group will be around long enough to keep our head above the water till then. Unfortunately, I can't help all the cadet groups around the state, and there's a number that are in the same boat as us tonight. Sorry, I lost my spot here. Bear with me. Unfortunately, I can't, here we go. But we can help the 2 DFIS cadet groups that are in our city. Your continued support is essential to ensuring that we can continue to serve our local youth effectively and maintain our commitment to community resilience. By supporting the future annual funding, which I believe might be item 2, of $50 per cadet per year, ensures that both groups, Two Rocks and Queen's Rocks, Two Rocks. The Queen's Rock, sorry, hang on. My apologies, my eyes have gone cross-eyed. Okay, yeah, sorry. Both cadet groups can have the same impact and every young person involved. Okay, that's important to us. This also supports the Two Rocks Yes Cadets in their future expansion as well. The Queen's Rock Yes Cadets membership limit is 80 based on our instructor numbers. This means the biggest contribution the city annually would be $4,000 to our group in particular. This is a small price to pay for the quality young people that we transition into adult emergency services volunteering. And I just want to add on there as well that the Meridian Fire was a key one where we did actually have current serving cadets on the ICV at that particular time in the emergency. Thank you all for considering our request. We look forward to the discussion. I'll be watching online. I've got to depart here and go and train those kids that we're talking about tonight. But I do appreciate the support of the council and hope you guys support us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand Wendy Garstone is here and would like to ask a question. Wendy, if you could come to the podium and give us your name and the suburb you live in.
Wendy Garstone. I live in Maylands. My request is, can the item 9 regarding the Cordelia Street tree item be brought forward this evening, seeing as there are some members of the public in the gallery this evening?
Thank you. We'll consider that once our meeting proper starts. Thank you. Are there any public questions from the gallery about any items on tonight's meeting? Yes, if you'd like to come down to the podium and give us your name and the suburb you live in. Can you give this to
Good evening, my name's Bruno Baldocchi. I live in Cordelia Place. And basically, I would like to know why the council rescinded the motion of replacing that tree with a smaller one. That is my question.
Thank you. Mr Chettlewood, do you want to respond to that? Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. The decision still is there. It hasn't been rescinded. That will be considered by council tonight.
Thank you. Any other questions about any items on tonight's agenda from the gallery? Okay, if there are no questions, we go to the next item on the agenda, which is confirmation of minutes. They are the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on the 21st of May, minutes of the Special Council meeting held on the 28th of May, and minutes of the Special Council meeting held on the 4th of June. Do I have a mover and seconder for these minutes? Moved Councillor Figg, seconded Councillor Nguyen. Do I have any speakers or any comments to be made about any of these minutes at all? If there are none, councillors, I ask that you cast your vote for the minutes, the confirmation of minutes. And have we got the online ones? So that is passed by every councillor unanimously. Thank you. We now go on to announcements by the Mayor without discussion, of which there is none. Item 6, questions from council members. Are there any questions about any agenda items tonight? If there are none, we go on to item 7, petitions. There is one petition received which the Deputy Mayor will be presenting to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a petition in front of me with a total number of signatures being 44 signatories identified as residing within the city of Wanneroo, and essentially the petition requests some keep clear parking prohibition signage on Civic Road in Hocking, and that is the petition, Mayor, that I table before council.
Thank you. Can I have a vote to accept the petitions, councillors? Moved Councillor Miles, seconded Councillor Herridge. Councillors, please cast your vote to accept the petitions. And that is carried unanimously. Update on positions there nil. We now go to item 8, reports. Any declarations of interest by council members, including the nature and extent of which the interests are to be made at the commencement of the item to which the interest relates. Declarations of interest forms are to be completed and handed to the Chief Executive Officer. We have had a request from the gallery about the rescindment motion, which is MN 010624. Do any of the councillors wish to bring that forward? Move or second to bring it forward? Moved Councillor Moore, seconded Councillor Nguyen. Councillors, could you please vote on whether you're happy to bring this forward in the agenda to discuss now? Thank you. And that is passed unanimously. So we will go to item MN 010624, the motion on notice to revoke Council Resolution AS 050424. That is on page 343 of your agenda. And I believe that was moved by Councillor Herridge, is that correct? And seconded by Councillor Parker? Oh, Councillor Huntley. Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The revocation motion does speak for itself, but I will in short introduce the motion to the floor. The removal of a healthy tree is something as a council we cannot take lightly. I believe that if we had had the information at the time of the discussion confirming any tree root structure damage to the driveway that could be overcome, that the outcome of the April meeting possibly would have had a different outcome. This new information as presented in the revocation motion is now before us to reconsider the resolution of removing tree 1. Supporting the revocation motion is acknowledging there is further new information since the April meeting the resolution was made at, regardless of how it came to be, and more before us, a permanent that cannot be undone solution is made for this tree. We need to ensure that all due and proper cause has been considered. If this revocation motion is supported this evening, the report confirms the item will return to the July meeting for closure of the petition from the homeowner and the opposing petition that was presented to us in May. This tree has survived the summer heat, provides a home to native wildlife, shade and amenity to our residents, and not to mention the benefit of reducing heat island effect. Does any healthy tree deserve to be removed that is of a significant age because of the tree's roots that might hinder a driveway in the future? Do we wish to be known as a council that does? I've said this before and it certainly fits again here, that everyone is watching our result tonight. What type of council do we want to be known as? Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley, would you like to speak to this item as you're the seconder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start really firstly by highlighting the efforts taken to address the issues raised in the April report regarding the tree root infrastructure damage. Works were conducted to rectify the paving lift caused by these roots, and inspections carried out by the city revealed that the roots were of non-structural nature, easily removed, as so many other trees that are anywhere near driveways. So they pose no threat to the overall health of the tree, and confirms that the tree remains in good health and its benefits now far outweigh the minor inconvenience of occasional root maintenance. I understand that the residents have issues and concerns regarding the branches dropping. However, there are 3 trees in this street. Knocking one down is not going to prevent a branch coming down from the other 2. That is a risk that is always there when we're using trees as canopy cover. So that argument really just doesn't stand. There will also be 2 other trees with pollen. So should one go, the pollen issue will still be there. It will not change. And also, the street needs to be planted out. So there will be more trees in that street coming. Once there are more trees filling that street, then 3 trees will not seem to be a massive issue anymore. Shrub trees are actually no good. We need canopy. Canopy means that we are going to have structural high trees. This is going to cause a problem to gutters and to elderly people who cannot maintain those gutters. This is something that developers are going to need to address in the future because canopy is coming. We must also acknowledge the strong community response to our initial discussion on May 21st. The petition, it was presented by 77 residents requesting that we reconsider the removal of this tree. The timing between our meeting, unfortunately, means that this petition was not going to be considered before the scheduled removal date of June the 4th. And it's only fair that we allow our community the chance to be heard and consider their petition before making this irreversible decision. By revoking the decision to remove tree 1, we can demonstrate to our community and our commitment to environmental stewardship that community engagement and sustainable urban planning, preserving this tree is just not about keeping one tree, it's about valuing the benefits of many mature trees that bring to our urban environment and not set a precedent that we will pull them down if they become a slight inconvenience. According to the heat mapping studies in Wanneroo, areas with dense tree covering are significantly cooler than those without. Trees provide critical shade, reducing temperatures by up to 10 degrees during the peak summer months. This has a direct impact on the well-being of our residents, particularly the elderly and young children, who are most vulnerable to heat stress. Furthermore, Wanneroo has faced substantial tree loss due to dieback, post-fire damage and drought this year. This has exacerbated the urban heat island effect and diminished the quality of our green spaces. Every tree we save contributes to the reversing of this trend and supports our biodiversity. In closing, let us remember that our decision today shaped the legacy we leave for our future generations. By choosing to save the tree, we are choosing a greener, cooler, and more livable Wanneroo. I urge you all to support this motion and allow the residents' petition to be considered before proceeding with any removal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. Do I have any speakers against this motion? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Mayor, I didn't intend to speak, but I will do so on the basis that it will allow anyone who wishes to support the revocation to be able to say a few words. I also note that under the standing orders, I'm required to remain within the actual scope of the revocation with making my comments tonight, so not to introduce information that's not been mentioned in the revocation. All I would say, Mayor, is that I asked a number of questions last week on the record. I thank the administration for the responses that were provided. They were procedural in nature, and I don't believe that the information that I was provided with satisfied the concerns that I had. The question really about this motion is around new information. And I see the reasons that are provided. I see two reasons. The first, in my opinion, is an action that was taken by the administration through an operational means after the council decision to remove and replace one tree. And the second reason is a counter petition that was received at the subsequent council meeting. So to me, looking at the motion on before the council tonight, I don't believe it meets the threshold for me to be able to support the revocation. So I will be voting no.
Thank you. Any speakers for the revocation? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. In supporting this revocation, I am showing my support of the residents' efforts in bringing a petition to Council. I believe petitions play an important role in placing issues before Council and raising awareness of the issues and decisions of Council that members of the public feel strongly about, either for or against. The revocation does not in any way change Council's decision made on the 23rd of April 2024 to remove Tree 1, but merely requests further discussion which addresses the new information that has come to light be further discussed by Council. The timing and process of this entire issue needs further discussion by Council. Agreeing to this revocation, in my mind, shows Council as a listening council and a council that respects our residents' concerns. May I add that by Council, if it so votes, agreeing to this revocation in no way guarantees Tree 1 will remain. That would be a decision at a future council meeting. I would like to acknowledge the work done by the members of the public here this evening, and thank you for your participation in this process. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Councillor Seif, do you have a question? You want to speak against it? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Seif.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to acknowledge the residents who have, in my view, well, I have two main points. The first one is that I agree with Deputy Mayor Rowe that there is no new information. All the matters raised in the revocation were raised in the initial petition, which is what the council voted on. So in terms of process and the community being able to have faith in the process and in their dealings with council, in my view, there is no new information. Secondly, the residents have done absolutely the right thing. Council and administration will be well aware that there are incidents where people do not come to council with issues with their trees and they just proceed and cut down the trees or poison the trees, and then it's too late. It's after the fact when we find out. So these residents have done the right thing. They have accepted that the other two trees that are of a similar size have to remain, and that this particular tree needs to be replaced, not just cut down and that's it. Further, the resident advises that she has been raising issues with this tree for many years And had we have replaced the tree a long time ago, the situation wouldn't be anything like what it is now. Further, I understand that the city did a tree audit for Mindarie. I refer to the Mindarie Pine Report of June 2017, where 381 trees were assessed. And the summary was that 15 trees to be removed within 2 years, 36 trees to be removed within 5 years, and 51 trees. So that's 51 trees in that one suburb alone, and it's due to its impact on surrounding infrastructure, which included paving. And as I read the report, as I understand it, the threshold was 2 metres. So the tree had to be more than 2 metres away from paving. I have visited this tree, and in my view, it does not meet threshold criteria and probably would have been marked for removal for it being problematic. On further viewing of this tree, because it's so close to the resident's driveway, one side of the tree has had its limbs chopped off and the other side of the tree is left to grow freely. Further, the roots on that side of the tree have now been subsequently also cut, and therefore we are ending up with a tree that's over 20 metres high and will be lopsided in weight, further creating a greater issue. The resident has planted their own native trees in their front garden and is therefore demonstrating that they care about trees, care about our wildlife, and has willingly accepted to keep the other 2 trees, replace this tree, and I'm very confident that the resident will take care of a replacement tree. So in terms of, in light of all of that information, and so that our residents can continue to come to us and talk to us about the issues with their trees and maintain confidence so that we can keep as many trees as possible, I will be voting against this rescindment motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Seeds. Do I have any speakers for? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 points. The first one I want to reiterate is that the information that we received from the report when the operational work was done, that let us know about the type of routes was important for me in terms of leading to point 2, as Councillor Parker mentioned, it would be good to discuss what that means, and also we have to be careful here in what we are able to discuss, because I think I would like to respond to some of the comments that Councillor Seif brought up, but I actually think they might be outside the scope of what the revocation motion mentioned, which to me actually demonstrates the fact that there is a lot more that we could discuss about this. So that highlights for me the need for more discussion on this, because I would love to respond to some of those things or have more questions or more answers about that. So that's where I support the revocation, for the opportunity to continue those discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker against the revocation motion? If I have no speakers against the revocation motion, Councillor Herridge, would you like right of reply?
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't going to, but I'll just say thank you to everybody that's come in tonight and for the interest that everyone has in this tree. Trees are important to us for a number of reasons, which is why the revocation is here before us. Just to remind everybody as well, because you'll be all wondering, tonight's item actually does need an absolute majority, so you need 8 for it to actually carry. And I'll leave it there and we'll take it to a vote.
Thank you. Councillors, could you please cast your vote on this item? And I declare that the revocation motion has been lost. 5 councillors supported it. The councillors that supported it were Councillor Figg, Councillor Parker, Councillor Huntley, Councillor Herridge and Councillor Smith. And the councillors that weren't supportive of it was myself, Councillor Newen, Councillor Seif, Councillor Moore, Councillor Bedworth, Councillor Rowe, Deputy Mayor Rowe, Councillor Miles and Councillor Coetzee. So I was wondering if any councillors would like to move a motion to bring item MN020624, the funding for the Quinns Rocks Youth in Emergency Services forward, because we have them in the...
We've got a technical issue regarding that one around receiving in writing, so it's best that we leave it to the end so we can continue to get in contact with Councillor Berry.
Deputy Mayor, did you have an email from Councillor Berry for supporting Councillor Bedworth to move this item and for yourself to second it?
Mayor, I had a phone call from Councillor Berry and a subsequent text message exchange. I don't have a formal email with that authorisation.
Thank you. Okay, so formally what's happening, because it's only a text message and we haven't received a formal email, Councillor Berry, we are going to give her every opportunity to contact us while the meeting is going, so we will go back to the meeting proper. Can I have a mover and seconder to go back to the meeting proper, please? Moved Councillor Parker, seconded Councillor Newen. Councillors, please cast your vote to go back to the meeting proper. Councillor Huntley and Councillor Seif, could you cast your vote, please? Yes, I have a unanimous vote to go back to the meeting proper. So we go back to the start of the meeting. We go to Planning and Sustainability, item PS 010624, Walga North Zone and State Council agenda. Councillor requests to raise a matter in relation to State Planning Policy 3.6 Infrastructure Contributions, Community Infrastructure Cap. Councillor Smith, did you want to move this one? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Miles. Councillor Smith, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. I have been given the privilege of being an elected State Council member representing North Metro Zone on Walga. And this item here is using that tool for that voice to bring forth an issue that's affecting our council and our area. We're currently seeing with the amounts that we can ask for or be allowed to have capped, and in the environment of increasing costs, it's actually decreasing the amount that we can have towards projects, which is not sustainable. We're also experiencing a reduction in financial grants and things like that in other areas, so it's putting intense pressure on us. We have already lobbied the state government, but this is another avenue for us to pursue to combine with other councils and zones areas to lobby on behalf of this item so we can increase the sustainability of what we're trying to do here. Thank you.
Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The report is very good, and I know that Councillor Smith and our planning team have articulated the seriousness of the issue, and also included within the report where some of those costs have obviously increased, and it has limited the capacity of council to be able to get any other funding apart from using our rates. The other interesting note to the SPP 3.6, which has a fixed cost to lot creation, and I understand why that came about by the state to try and keep the cost of lots down so people can buy their lot and obviously build their dream home. But I think the problem that it misses out on, which this report's whole context of this report is about, is the methodology of trying to get indexation available to that cost. At the moment, it's $5,000. It would require changes every year or every couple of years by the planning department, if they remember, to increase those amounts annually, if not biannually. And I think by asking the Planning Commission through the Minister, and obviously Walga pushing that line, is actually so we can actually get an increase that is commensurate with whether it be through CPI increases or the building cost increases or local government increases or even just using valuation of land increases. I think there needs to be a methodology. What that is up to the people that are making the decision in the department and obviously recommending to the Minister to be able to make those changes annually without having to burden the local councils, especially in the growth areas like Wanneroo, in actually having to put more costs on residents and ratepayers in the outgoing years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this item? If they have no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And that item was passed unanimously. We now move to item PSO 20624, preparation of amendment number 219 to District Planning Scheme number 2, part normalisation of the Woodvale agreed local structure plan number 64 area. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Moved Councillor Miles, seconded Councillor Bedworth. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item?
No, the report pretty much articulates what the council is asking for.
Councillor Bedworth, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillors, do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. Councillor Nguyen? Yes, and that was passed unanimously. We now go to item PSO 30624, partial removal of vehicle access restriction to Kirkstall Drive, pedestrian access way closure, lot 56, Kirkstall Drive, Cocking. Do I have a mover for this item? Moved Councillor Miles. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Moore. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor. The report pretty much articulates the administration's views.
Councillor Moore, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. The report's done well. Thank you.
Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to assets. Item ASO 10624, the Marangaroo Drive and Girraween Avenue intersection State Black Spot Project, variation to construction traffic signals. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Sorry? The Deputy Mayor would like to make a declaration.
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to this item being ASO 10624, I disclose that I am a board member of Girraween Senior High School, which is mentioned in the report. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. However, I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Councillor Bedworth, I understand you have a declaration as well.
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to this item, I disclose that due to my employment with Main Roads, I am employed by Mayor Rochester. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Moved Deputy Mayor Rowe, seconded. Councillor Nguyen. Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. The report does speak for itself. This is an item that has come before the council previously. It is an item that has generated significant community interest. Anyone who is familiar with the location is aware that it is quite a dangerous intersection, both due to the speed of the vehicles that are travelling along Wanneroo Drive, but also due to the fact that it is difficult to see oncoming traffic as it progresses from Mirrabooka Avenue down towards Wanneroo Road. So the fact that we have a report before us tonight and we have been conditionally successful upon amending the scope of the project, and we'll now be going and making some further representations and some contact with the community is a good thing. We need to be able to prioritise upgrades of this intersection through the traffic signals approach because it will ultimately save lives and lead to a higher functionality and a better safety outcome for all of the residents in the local area. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to this item?
Nothing further to add, Mayor. Thank you.
Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. No, she's voting for. Yep. Yep. Passed unanimously. We now go to AS 0624, response to petition PT 02 0523, requesting pedestrian accessway closure between Feathertop Rise and the Avenue Alexander Heights. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Councillor Parker, seconded Councillor Miles. Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to this?
Nothing to add, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor. We ran this through the briefing session last week. I was happy with the report and any possible changes.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this item? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
I do have a question, Mayor, and I thank Councillor Miles who gave me a call earlier in the week to discuss this report. And the administration has made some notes, and I note for the benefit of the residents who are here this evening, the investigation of some interim measures to try and address problems and a commitment to update the management strategy. What I couldn't find throughout the document, particularly the recommendation, was a time frame for delivery of those outcomes. So perhaps through you, Mayor, can the administration advise, particularly those items listed in option number 4, investigate the installation of lighting, investigate the inclusion of Feathertop Rise pedestrian accessway in the city's CCTV technology review. Can I ask for some timeframes around that, just because I'm conscious of making sure that we get follow-up action?
Mr. Singh.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. For item 4A, we expect to have the investigation and some prelim designs done by the end of 2024. And depending on if we have to rely on Western Power for a connection, it may take a bit longer. That's why I didn't put any timeframes. And if we can get the connections earlier, then the project can be done, delivered next 12 months. Item 4B, the CCTV technology, my understanding is the site is not suitable for a site sentry. However, we could provide the other technology means of CCTV there within the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Oh,
Sorry, for item 4C, the raised level of BAW maintenance will commence from next month.
thank you. Any other questions on this item? Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Just one more, Mayor, because Mr. Singh mentioned that the site wouldn't be suitable for a site sentry tower. What is the other form of CCTV? Is it covert cameras or some other form of technology that would be suitable given the constraints of the location?
Mr. Singh.
Yes, Mayor, there will be covert cameras if we can find a good location. Even if we can't find a location where cameras can be hidden, we still install those cameras in next 2 to 4 weeks. They may be seen by members of public, but I can't assure they will be fully covered.
Thank you. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, are there any speakers against this item? Oh, one more question from Deputy Mayor Rowe.
One more question, Mayor, because we are receiving quite a lot of these requests now, sometimes for the second time, third time. I think it's worth explaining, and apologies if I overlooked it in the report, that even if Council were to approve this request tonight, that is not the end of the process. It would go to the Western Australian Planning Commission, who would then assess the request on its own merits. And for the context, Mayor, this council approved a PAW closure request last year, and to the best of my knowledge, that was on Inez Place, Girraween. That matter still hasn't been determined by the Western Australian Planning Commission. So perhaps could the administration advise, for the benefit of the residents who are here, that we're not the sole decision-making authority on this matter? It would actually have to be escalated further beyond our control.
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The formal closure of PAWs is quite lengthy process. If Council were to support this petition to close this PAW, there will be a number of steps required, which will involve community consultation with obviously the wider community, not just that particular street, and then consult with the service authorities to understand if they have any underground services in that area, how they will be impacted, and also then get the feedback, look at the network impact for walkability in that area, bring a report back to Council. If Council after that supports it, then we will then have to speak to the adjoining residents who abut to those PAWs and ask the question, would they be interested to purchase that land? But the land has to go to one of those number of properties which are immediately adjacent to those PAWs. And then after that, if it's supported by Council at that time, then the request goes to WA Planning Commission to close PAW. They have the final say and approval authority.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Any other questions on this item? If there are no more questions, are there any speakers? Have I got a mover and seconder for this? Yes. Are there any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote, please. Okay, there were 11 supportive of the recommendation and 2 against the recommendation. The 2 councillors against the recommendation are Councillor Bedworth and Councillor Huntley, and the councillors supportive of the recommendation were myself, Councillor Nguyen, Councillor Moore, Councillor Parker, Councillor Figg, Deputy Mayor Rowe, Councillor Herridge, Councillor Miles, Councillor Smith and Councillor Coetzee. We now go to item AS 030624, and there is an amendment to this. Can I have a mover and seconder for the substantive, please? For the substantive? Okay. So Deputy Mayor Rowe is moving the substantive. Do I have a seconder for moving the substantive? Councillor Parker. So I am moving the amendment. Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Figg is the seconder for the amendment. So the amendment to this substantive is relatively simple. All too often we get a report, we make a decision, it goes out and it's actioned. But in this case, after listening to the deputation and knowing how traumatic it has been for the family with what's happening, even though the family are agreeable to the changes that Mr Singh and the team have brought to help improve their lifestyle within this access way in the cul-de-sac, I felt that it would be right to close the loop and have them inquire with the residents who put the petition in, particularly the key stakeholder, and see if the actions we did as a council actually improved what was happening and if it needed to come back, rather than having this finished and then not having the opportunity to further improve the amenity there. The deputation last week that I read, or the information I read last week for the family, was actually quite traumatic. A 10-year-old had rocks thrown through the window with shards of glass. She won't sleep in her bedroom and is quite traumatised. But the people and the petitioners in the street all supported it, have all been upset about the bad behaviour. So this item 5 addition and moving advises the petition of the decision just says requests administration to monitor and seek feedback from the petitioner 6 months after the implementation of the actions listed in items 3 and 4 above on their effectiveness and provide an update to council members. What it actually does is closes the loop and tells us if those actions have been effective or not. So, councillors, I ask that you support this amendment. And Councillor Figg, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I think you encapsulate it pretty well. I just add that, I fully support the recommendations that our team has made, the admin team here has made, but I do agree that just having a point at which we can come back and revisit and assess is vital. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against the amendment? If there are no speakers against the amendment, could you please vote? This is just on the amendment, not the substantive. Thank you. And the amendment is passed unanimously. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak to the substantive as amended?
Only to highlight the earlier point, Mayor, that you've raised about the deputation and the experience that was outlined of significant trauma. And I think that as amended, this now provides an opportunity for the city to assess the effectiveness of the proposed or of the agreed solution and to remain engaged with the affected residents. And I think that is an important process to be following. So as amended, I'm fully in support of the recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to the substantive as amended?
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any councillors to speak against this substantive as amended? If there are no councillors against it, councillors, please cast your vote. I cannot see the vote on my screen. It is 13-0. It's passed unanimously. Thank you. We now go on to ASO 40624, applications for funding Metropolitan Regional Roads Program 2025 to 2026. Do I have a mover and seconder on this item? Moved Councillor Miles, seconded Councillor Figg. Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The report does show quite well that there's a Pinjar Road as well as Yanship Beach Road are the two roads that the funding's being asked for. Both roads are definitely in need of the upgrades suggested by administration. The report articulates the reasons why. It is also about the safety, especially on the roundabout in Pinjar Road. If you don't have that small little wiggle before people get to the roundabout, you have people racing through those roundabouts. And if somebody's actually on the other side, possibly crossing, especially when they're trying to get to school, you can actually have some very, very close near misses. So I support this report very well, and I ask administration to obviously do their best to advocate for it.
Councillor Miles. Councillor Figg, would you like to speak to this item?
I guess I'd just echo Councillor Miles's comments and I'd add that we can see there's a significant cost coming up with both these projects, in particular Yanship Beach Road, and to get this sort of process going now is I think some good advanced planning. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have a declaration, Councillor Bedworth? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, with regards to item AS04, I disclosed that I am employed by Main Roads. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. That's passed unanimously. Did you want to move the next? Well, I'll let you that, but we're going to bring the motion on notice forward for the Yes Cadets. The staff have gone and looked at their records and they found an email from Councillor Berry authorising Councillor Bedworth to move that item and Deputy Mayor Rowe to second it. So can I have a mover and seconder to move to MN02 0624? Moved Councillor Herridge, seconded Councillor Bedworth. Councillors, please cast your vote to bring this item forward on the agenda. Actually, that's MN, it's not procedural motion 3, it's procedural motion 2. MN02 0624, Councillor Berry funding. Yes, I know, but that was to procedural motion 3, not procedural motion 2 on the agenda when they went through. Will we accept that as procedural motion 2 now? I think we will. We all want to move that forward. So, mover Councillor Bedworth, seconded Deputy Mayor Rowe. Councillor Bedworth, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And what I say is in complete and utter support of what Mr Faulkner said earlier. The Queen's Rocks Youth and Emergency Service Cadets programme is a remarkable endeavour that empowers our young people. These dedicated cadets learn essential life skills, leadership and teamwork whilst contributing to the safety and well-being of our community in general. Through the hands-on training that they're provided, they gain knowledge in emergency response, fire, safety, first aid and disaster management. These skills are not only beneficial to the cadets themselves, but also enhance our community's overall preparedness and develops our future voluntary emergency service personnel. Agreeing to this funding would allow us to provide proper uniforms for them and equipment for the cadets, organise their training sessions, workshops and community outreach events, as you've heard, and support the cadets' participation in regional and state level emergency services activities, no doubt. Investing in these youth would pay dividends for our community, not only now, but in the years to come. The cadets will learn to become responsible citizens, equipped with valuable skills and a true value in what community means. They actively contribute to emergency service response efforts during crises, no matter at what level. Our community gains a stronger safety net and prepared for any emergency eventuality, thanks to the input from our volunteers. So in closing, I urge you all to recognise the immense value of this service, of the Queen's Rocks Youth and Emergency Service Cadets programme, as well as the Two Rocks one. By allocating funding, we invest not only in their future, but also in the resilience and the safety of our entire community and also its future. It provides a wonderful diversionary measure to the youthful temptations present in society now, and also helps young people foster self-discipline, resilience and community service spirit. In closing, I just ask that you all support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedworth. Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
Only a few comments to make, Mayor. First, I just want to acknowledge Councillor Berry, who cannot be here to move this item tonight, that she had prepared, so I acknowledge her efforts in preparing the report. Second, I acknowledge the efforts of Mr Faulkner, who emailed us all last night and obviously spoke rather passionately and from the heart about all of the great work that the cadets do. From a number of events that I've attended during my 2.5 years on council, including at Wanneroo Show on opening night, I had the opportunity to meet with many of the cadets then and also to see them at subsequent volunteer functions that the city organised, because often the case with people who are involved in these organisations is they don't just volunteer for one group, they volunteer extensively throughout the community, and the hours that go in behind the scenes to do all of the organisation, to show up, to prepare, is commendable. So I acknowledge that on the record tonight. I think the motion is important to establish consistency in the first instance. It speaks for itself in the high quality of work that are undertaken by these cadets. I can't really add to the motion from what Councillor Bedworth has already said, other than to encourage council members to please support the motion that is before us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Do I have any speakers against this item? Councillor Miles has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. My only question is, and look, I'm in total support of doing an appropriate level of funding for both of these groups, Quins as well as the Two Rocks. Whilst I totally support one, but two only talks about $50 per cadet, I'm wondering, is that able to be changed easily? How is administration going to do this as a budget item annually is probably my question, because I want to make sure that that obviously has some sort of CPI attached to it.
Mr Clem?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That's the way it's proposed at the moment, that the amount of $50 per cadet would be allowed for in the operating budget each year, and that would then be adopted by council through their normal budget process.
Councillor Miles, do you have another question?
Okay, yeah. And the other part of my question was, and I don't want to start changing the recommendation tonight, but I think we should have a minimum of $2,000, because $50 a cadet means that these clubs have to have at least 40 members in there at any one time to get at least the $2,000 annually. So maybe we could put this on the agenda for our next workshop, budget workshop.
Thank you. Okay, do I have any speakers against this item? Do you want to speak against it, do you, Councillor Nguyen?
Yes, just so that other people may want to have an opportunity to speak for this item. But my only objection to this is, I think, like Councillor Mao has indicated, I think we should consider providing more funding than what is already sort of allocated for. So I certainly would consider supporting a high amount in the future to support this particular organisation. Thank you.
Speakers for? If there are no speakers for, councillors, I think we cast our vote, and I'm sure Speaker, the mover, do you want to speak? A right of reply, sorry.
Only in so much as to thank Councillor Miles and Nguyen for suggesting the idea of a minimum amount for these groups. I think it's worthy. But as an interim measure, I think that this particular motion should be supported tonight and then perhaps discussed further in the future as to an incremental increase. Thank you.
Thank you. And on that note, councillors, cast your vote. And that's passed unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. Can I have a mover and seconder to go back to the agenda proper? Moved Councillor Moore, seconded Councillor Parker. Can you cast your vote to go back to the agenda proper, please? Councillor Coetzee? And that is passed unanimously. We now go to Community Development, CPO 10624, revised spelling of the Noongar name for the new Library and Youth Innovation Hub, and I think Councillor Herridge wanted to move that one. Who wants to second it? Everyone was. I'll let Deputy Mayor Rose second it. Councillor Herridge, do you want to speak to it?
Only to say I'm quite excited to have this go forward, and I'm sure everyone will support. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, would you like to speak to this item?
Only to acknowledge the fantastic work that Miss Katie Russell and her team do, not only through Knee Cuddigan Court, but also through their broader engagement with First Nations community as well. So to acknowledge the effort of the Community Development and the Community and Place Directorate.
Thank you. Any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. We now go to CPO 20624, the Alkimos Open Spaces Master Plan. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Moved Councillor Figg, seconded Councillor Nguyen. Councillor Figg, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It's great to see this coming up onto our agenda for some formal assessment. I'm really pleased to see that we've got both of these in the same report, both the district open space and regional open space, to streamline things a little bit. Other than that, I think the report speaks for itself. These are going to be some massive projects that will require some significant planning and strategic direction from council. And I'm glad that we're looking at them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Would you like to speak to this item?
Nothing to add, but I just want to declare a impartiality interest on this item. I've indicated last week that I'm employed at Legal Care Australia, a law firm that provided legal advice on a lease at 12 Rahal Place, Karabuda. It's a parcel of land that's the subject of the transfer to Wanneroo. As a result, there may be a perception that my impartiality on this matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and will vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Do I have any speakers against this item? Councillor Miles?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As I articulated last week during the briefing, I had concerned about the, I guess, the costings that are in it. I also have some concerns about the actual master plan itself. So what I wish to do is I wish to move to defer this item until a later time, but also request administration to establish a working group and bring that terms of reference to our next meeting so we can approve a working group to actually work in the Alkimos open space area, just as we're doing with the current the Alkimos swimming pool. I believe that this is a very, very large project, and I think I'd like to see some councillors on that working group to be able to have some input along the way before we hit some of the milestones that we have to hit within this room going forward, because I'm not entirely happy with the master plan and also the costings on that. So I'd like to move that they get deferred and, as I said, set up a working group for the next council meeting.
So I understand this is a procedural motion and it can only be deferred. There can't be a whole heap of extra stuff added to it. Do you have a date that you want it deferred to?
So if that's the case, I will defer it then till the August council meeting and foreshadow a notice of motion for the next ordinary council meeting to set up terms of reference for the working group.
Okay, do you have a seconder for this? Councillor Bedworth. Councillor, okay, and there is no debate on this item, so because it's a procedural item. So, councillors, we will go straight to the vote on this because it's a procedural motion. Okay, we have 4 against the procedural motion and 9 for the procedural motion. Those against the procedural motion was myself, Councillor Herridge and Councillor Figg and Councillor Seif. Those for the procedural motion was Councillor Huntley, Councillor Nguyen, Councillor Moore, Councillor Bedworth, Councillor Parker, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Miles, Councillor Smith and Councillor Coetzee. So therefore a procedural motion has been done on that item and that item has been moved to a later date to the August Ordinary Council meeting. Do I have a mover and seconder for CPO 30624, the Wanneroo Raceway Master Plan update? Moved Councillor Bedworth, seconded Councillor Miles. Councillor Bedworth, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing more than to say that I find the detail in the report to be comprehensive and a good report.
Councillor Miles, do you want to speak to this item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Again, questions were asked last week and I do appreciate the work that administration has done with this particular project over the multiple years that it has been hanging around. I do note with interest, Mayor, over the last week or so, it's very clear there's going to be a street race down at Burswood, by all the information that I have, and there'll be a new street track down there. But I agree with the recommendation of administration to pass this work over to the Department of Sport and ask them to obviously further it going forward so we can keep our track and our race facility up to a standard to meet the needs, the growing needs of our community going forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. I now go to item CPO 40624, the Wanneroo Recreation Centre Sports Hub consultation outcomes. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Moved Councillor Herridge, seconded Councillor Parker. Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to this?
No, thank you, Mayor. Is there not an amendment to this item?
Just an amendment.
Oh, no, doesn't the amendment happen first?
It's not an alternate, it's an amendment.
Yeah, so it happens.
Councillor Smith, you have an amendment. Would you like to speak to that? Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Apologies for the mix-up. So the amendment that I'm proposing to add to this is the formation of a project working group that I've been working with administration on. We've been having a number of discussions around the development of guiding principles for architectural design and material selection. And I think that's a really good thing to work towards in our design concepts. Design only represents approximately about 1% of the budget of the build of the project, but it has a massive significance on what the total cost will end up being. So I think it would be fantastic for councillors to have the opportunity to have a bit more guidance in that area to see if we can have more fit for purpose, cost effective buildings made. And the last one, 7, is for the future council meeting, which I'd like to change a future to the next council meeting to adopt the project working group terms of reference. So if we can get that last little bit updated, that would be great. So in number 7, change the word to a future to the next council meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Miles, do you want to speak to this item?
Only that I think the changes 6 and 7 are. I support the changes next. There are some work to be done in the design itself, and that's the idea of creating the item 6 and 7. Administration, the director responsible, Mr. Clem, has already said that he could probably deal with that at the next council meeting on the terms of reference for the project working group. Be very much mastered upon the same lines, I believe, as the Alkimos swimming complex. That's all I have to say, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against the amendment? If there are no speakers against the amendment, councillors, cast your vote. I can't see the vote. That is passed unanimously. We now vote on the substantive as amended. Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to the substantive as amended?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to the substantive as amended?
No, thank you, Mayor. Very happy with the changes. Thank you.
Okay, are there any speakers against the substantive as amended? If there are no speakers against the substantive as amended, councillors, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to CPO 50624, the Bushfire Brigade Local Law. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Moved Councillor Nguyen, seconded Deputy Mayor Rowe. Councillor Nguyen, do you want to speak to this item?
No, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Rowe, do you want to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Are there any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to corporate strategy and performance. And our first item is CSO 10624, the Youth Services Review. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Moved Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Bedworth. Councillor Smith, would you like to speak to this item?
Sorry, Mayor. I would actually like to move an amendment if possible.
Have you given one previously? Is there
No,
one
I
here?
apologise. That was me.
Okay, so if you're moving an amendment, you can't move the substantive.
okay.
So I need a mover for the substantive. Deputy Mayor Rowe will move the substantive. And are you still happy to move the substantive, Councillor Bedworth? So the amendment is by Councillor Smith. Councillor Smith, do you have a seconder for your amendment?
Paul.
That's Councillor Miles. Councillor Smith, could you please speak to your amendment, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Are we able to get the words on the screen so I can say what the amendment would be, please? Yeah. In the meantime, I'll speak to it. So the amendment would be adding to number 1, D and E, which are the two remaining. Yep. So D, 1D, advocacy and partnership development, and E, youth leadership. So I apologise for sending this one through earlier. I had flagged it with a number of different councillors last week, and another councillor sent through an email, and we've spoke about this at forum as well. So the addition of these two areas are areas within our youth development, I guess, program, and I believe it's very worthwhile looking at the whole of what we offer for youth, as administration has recommended the first three because they are quite interlinked, but youth leadership also really interlinks as well. And I believe it's worth taking the time to look at our whole, whole of what we deliver for youth in that area, considering we're spending the time looking at these areas there as well. So I would like to give us the opportunity to include them as well. Thank you very much.
Councillor Miles, do you want to speak to this?
No, I think Councillor Smith has articulated the extra little bit of work that we're going to ask for during this item, and I'm happy with those words. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this amendment? Deputy Mayor Rowe has a question.
Yes, Mayor, with your indulgence, am I allowed to ask questions given this is the first we've seen in writing? Yeah. Okay. Mayor, at a previous council meeting, one of the items we voted on was needing to provide extension for this service review to be undertaken because it was the administration's opinion that it was already behind schedule. Therefore, can I confirm through yourself, Mayor, perhaps with the Director of Community in place, what the inclusion of 2 more areas would do potentially to the delivery of this service review, noting that it's already behind schedule?
Ms Jennings.
Thank you. Through the Chair, we'd probably be adding at least another 3 months onto the program. So I think at the moment it's sort of finishing about October, November, so we'd go into the next calendar year probably. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Smith, you have a question.
Yes. Is it possible to keep it to 24-25 for now, and then if it's needed to then extend?
Ms Jennings?
Thank you. It is still in 24-25 financial year. I just said it would cross over the calendar year. Yeah.
Any other questions? Do I have any speakers against the amendment? Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have a look into this when Councillor did bring this up with us a bit of a week ago. What I did recollect from looking back at my notes was that originally when the team came to us, we only had 1 piece to the scope. So they actually added the extra 3 to be included because they felt that we hadn't actually added in enough. And with those 2 that weren't then added, which was D&E, it was sufficient for them to do what they needed to do with work on the ground. I don't think these 2 need to be added. They are quite specific and they are of a different scope. So I'm happy to leave the recommendation as is.
Speakers for? I'm going to give the option if anyone wants to speak against. Oh, question, yes.
Sorry, Mayor. Perhaps through yourself, maybe to the CEO, the intent of establishing this working group, being the Service Review Working Group, is it fair and accurate to suggest that it was to undertake and complete these service reviews in a timely manner as well as in an efficient manner?
Mr CEO.
That is my understanding, Deputy Mayor, and even the Director of Corporate could provide more detail, given I wasn't here when those groups were initially established.
Ms Jennings.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, the group was set up to be able to conduct probably 2 a year of service reviews, given the resourcing that we had available. So unless, of course, the program was a bigger one, like we've just done the streetscape by itself over a period of time, but we're trying to do 2 small ones together, being the CCTV and the youth services, but this one will take a bit longer now.
I've just got a bit of a question to ask. The service review is about what we're actually doing, isn't it? It's not about what we should be doing. It should be, and about our staffing for what we're doing. Is that correct?
To yourself, Mayor, we do have a look at improvements if there are obvious improvements that could be made. So you may remember with the streetscape, we found sometimes there were gaps between areas being looked after and sometimes there were overlaps. So they were able to fix that up and also come up with a way to make sure that didn't happen in the future. So whilst we're mostly looking at how we're doing it now, we also take advantage of if there's an easy improvement to do, to also do that.
Thank you. Any speaker? Councillor Miles, do you have a question?
Just a question, thank you. Mayor, just to go back to the Director and ask, advocacy and partnership and development of that, would administration not be doing some of that during the service review itself on youth services?
Mr Clem.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Yes, advocacy and partnerships is something that we continue to do. So, yes, that would continue through the service review.
Councillor Miles.
Come back on. And youth leadership. I do know that we are doing some youth leadership programs, and we're just asking for those to be reviewed as part of this as well. Is that right, Mr. Clem, that you are doing youth leadership at the moment?
Mr. Clem.
Through you, Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Any other questions on the amendment? Any speakers for? Okay, councillors, I ask that you cast your vote. Yeah, it's me that hasn't voted. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Okay, so there were 4 against the amendment and 9 for. Those against the amendment was myself, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Herridge, Councillor Parker. Those for the amendment was Councillor Newen, Councillor Moore, Councillor Bedworth, Councillor Figg, Councillor Miles, Councillor Smith and Councillor Coetzee. So now we move to CSO 1 0624 Youth Services Review as amendment. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item as amended?
No.
Councillor Bedworth, would you like to speak to this item as amendment?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think we've just discussed it well.
Okay, do you want to speak to it as amended, do you, Councillor Smith? I was going to ask for someone against. If there's no one against it, I was going to go straight to the vote. If there's no one against it, I'm going to go straight to the vote. Councillors, cast your vote. And that is passed 12-1. Councillor Parker against. The rest of the councillors supported it. We now go to CSO 20624. Do I have a mover? It's the financial activity statement for the period ended the 30th of April. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Moved Councillor Herridge, seconded Councillor Parker. Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Do I have any speakers against this item? There are no speakers against this item. Councillors, cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to CSO 30624, proposed lease to Quinns Rock Sports Club Incorporated over a portion of Gunblossom Park, 17 Tapping Way, Quinns Rocks. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Moved Councillor Bedworth. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Newen. Councillor Bedworth, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. The report speaks high volumes of this, and just in support of that, I'd just like to remind councillors that this particular venue does provide almost a central hub for the Quinns Rocks community currently and beyond. Having attended the RSL functions there twice since being elected in October, I hope that everyone can support this recommendation to allow that really important central function of the community to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any... Councillor Newen, you want to speak to this item?
No, thanks.
Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to CSO 40624, Light Vehicle Fleet Policy. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Moved Councillor Figg, seconded Deputy Mayor Rowe. Councillor Figg, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think the policy's pretty much speaking for itself. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
Only to thank the administration, particularly Mr Best and his team, for the thorough investigation they did on the policy that is before us tonight.
Thank you. Any speakers against? If there are no speakers against, councillors, please cast your vote. Passed unanimously. We now go to item CSO 50624, the donations policy review. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Moved Councillor Smith. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parker. Councillor Smith, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Parker, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, cast your vote, councillors. Councillor Nguyen? Thank you. And it's passed unanimously. We now go to CE 010624, sponsorship agreement with the Wanneroo Agricultural Society, Wanneroo Show. Do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Jackie, would you like to do your declaration?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think I've just thrown the paper on the floor. Here we go. Yeah, I've got it. No, I haven't. Okay, so with regard to item CEO 10624, sponsorship agreement with the Wanneroo Agricultural Society, I am their council delegate, so I disclose that as a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected, and I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a mover and seconder on this item? Move Deputy Mayor Rowe. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Miles. Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
Just to thank Mrs Newton for the historical background and the context that she provided last week. I know this is an event that I've been attending since I was a young child with my family, because it is family-friendly, affordable fun that also is able to shine a spotlight on some of the great local history that we have and the people who make up our community. So I think entering into this sponsorship agreement that provides certainty and stability is a good thing. And each year we as elected members are invited to attend and to be able to meet some of the stall holders. Last year the Premier attended, and I know he was particularly impressed having the opportunity to meet some of the great local people that make Wanneroo so special. So not only do I fully endorse the report, Mayor, but I encourage all elected members and people in the community to head out to the Wanneroo Show and see the great things that they produce every year.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Rowe. Councillor Miles, you want to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think most people in and around Wanneroo and the newer districts have been going to the show for many years, as articulated by the President last week, former Councillor Dot Newton. I think it's 104, 105 years old this year. I do remember the 100th year anniversary of the show, and I think the council did do those gates to represent some of the area's influence. To help with an organisation like the Ag Society maintain an agricultural society show. So it's not just a show for rides and show bags and buying glow sticks. It is an actual true agricultural show. I know they attempt every year to make sure that the fruit and vegetables are in place, and I think they're attempting to get some horses again this year, and also with other works in and around the showgrounds itself. They have very much articulated the great work they do for the showgrounds. I support us doing the sponsorship agreement. As highlighted last week, there were a couple of little niggly concerns, but I do every year see that we have one of our newer waste trucks down there. Obviously, our rangers have been down there, and the other teams in marketing have been there, obviously assisting people with any questions they have to deal with the city of Wanneroo, especially now we have over the 200,000 residents. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to item CEO 20624, the Strategic Risk Profile Update. Do I have a mover and seconder for this? Councillor Figg, seconder Councillor Parker. Councillor Figg, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor. Other than to thank our admin team for putting it together. It's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Councillor Parker, do you want to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Do I have any speakers against this item? There are no speakers against this item. Councillors, please cast your vote. And that is passed unanimously. We now go to item CEO 30624, adoption and extension of review dates of council policies. Do I have a mover and seconder on this? Councillor Herridge and Councillor Parker second. Councillor Herridge, do you want to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Parker, do you want to speak to this item?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Do we have any speakers against it? If there are no speakers against this item, please cast your vote. And there's one against, which is Councillor Miles, and 12-4. For Risk Management Framework Review, do I have a mover and seconder for this item? Deputy Mayor Rowe, seconder. Councillor Herridge. Deputy Mayor Rowe, would you like to speak to this item?
Just to thank the administration for preparing it. I know some time was afforded to me as the chairperson of Audit and Risk to guide me through this framework review. I'm looking forward to it being adopted, hopefully tonight, and for some further comms to be provided through Audit and Risk Committee to elected members who are on it into the future, particularly around the topic of control measures. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. Councillor Herridge, would you like to speak to this item?
All good, thank you, Mayor.
Do I have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. Passed unanimously. We now go to item MNO 30624, Councillor Miles' faculties and sites for horse-related activities. Do I have that here? Do I have them? Oh, it's on the agenda. Do you have a seconder for this item, Councillor Miles?
I think, yes, Councillor Moore.
You find with that, Councillor Moore? Okay, Councillor Miles, would you like to speak to this item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I do want to also thank Director Clem for his assistance in putting this together. One of the things that a lot of people out in the on the rural blocks and also up in through Narragansett and that often say to me is why is Wanneroo sort of ditching the horses areas? Why are they trying to get rid of horses? And which it's far from the truth. We've not done that. And as the report indicates, you know, we've got the Wanneroo Horse and Pony Club, we have the Trotting Club, we've now got our very own park out there at Meridianup, in Meridianup for horses to be able to ride to because of all the bridle paths that connect up there in that area. We have just before, Christmas, we obviously have heard of the sad story of the Wanneroo riding stables and equestrian area on Wanneroo Road having to be relocated. Well, they are relocated at the moment, but they will need some assistance in the future. I know our planning department are looking to find an appropriate beach access for horses and large animals to be able to go on. And I think what this is basically asking administration to plan for the future of equestrian facilities and also compile it together so people can understand that this city is very much supportive of its past, which is the equestrian areas. And in actual fact, for those that don't know, parts of Mariginup and Dundebar actually have street names named after racing horses. That was done by a former Shire president when he was here, Bill Duffy. So we have a strong connection. I want to maintain that connection, and I want to be able to demonstrate to the wider community that having horse and horse ownerships helps far more in the community, especially when those people that have needs and need to be able to go on a horse and have some control back in their life. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Moore, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I honestly couldn't have said it any better than what Councillor Miles has said, but I do ask for the support of council. They do play a vital part in our community, and exactly what Councillor Miles says, we do, especially with East Wanneroo, and a lot of this horsing community has been based in those areas. So I think for us to plan forward as a city, this would be really great to start the investigation of different areas we can set up and how we can support this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Do we have any speakers against this item? If there are no speakers against this item, councillors, please cast your vote. Passed unanimously. Item 10, urgent business, we have none. Item 11, confidential. We do have a confidential item, and the ordinary council meeting now moves into confidential session to discuss item CRO 10624 under the terms of the Local Government Act 1995, section 523 in brackets 2. Do I have a mover and seconder to go behind closed doors? Moved Councillor Parker, seconded Councillor Figg. Councillors, please cast your vote to go behind closed doors. And that is passed. We have one councillor against, Councillor Nguyen, and the other councillors all supported it. So we go behind closed doors at 7:58 p.m. think we're all getting too tired. So you can read that one aloud. When it's on air? Yep. Regarding item CRO 10624, that was passed unanimously by all of the councillors in the room. The recommendation is that Council 1 approves the acquisition of Lot 40 in brackets 294 and Lot 41 in brackets 596 Wanneroo Road, Pearsall, lots 40 and 41 on deposited plan 413647 as identified in the administration report from the Commissioner of Main Roads at the agreed amount including ancillary costs for dedication as public open space to be vested in the State of Western Australia as Crown land under management order to the City of Wanneroo for the purpose of public recreation. 2. In the event the land described in item 1 is transferred to the City in freehold by the Commissioner of Main Roads rather than vested directly in the State of Western Australia, approves the transfer of that land by the City to the State of Western Australia to be vested as Crown land under a management order to the City of Wanneroo for the purposes of public recreation. 3. Authorises A, the Chief Executive Officer or nominee of the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate terms, execute all documentation and comply with all applicable legislation in relation to items 1 and 2 above. B, the affixing of the common seal of the City of Wanneroo to the transaction document, transfer of land document in accordance with the City's execution of document policy and the execution of any other associated documentation between the City and the Commissioner of Main Roads to effect item 1 above in accordance with the City's execution of document policy. And C, the affixing of the common seal of the City of Wanneroo to the transaction document, transfer of land document in accordance with the City's execution of document policy and the execution of any other associated documentation between the City and the Commissioner of Main Roads to effect item 2 above. And 4, approves by absolute majority the amendment to the 2023-24 budget for the proposed expenditure described in the administration report, acquisition price plus transfer fees and other ancillary costs to be funded from East Wanneroo Town Planning Scheme Cell 4 funds. Item 12, date of the next meeting. The next council meeting briefing session has been scheduled for 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 9th of July 2024 to be held at Council Chambers, Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. And item 13 is closure, and I declare the meeting closure at 8:04 p.m. Thank you, councillors.